When you talk about meditation, that's often the technique in meditation, right? Is to just observe your thoughts.
Yeah.
Let them flow. Just observe. Well, who's observing?
Yeah.
Right? It's not the one having the thoughts, because that one is busy with the thoughts, right?
Right.
But if there's this more peaceful, more serene, more blissful part that can observe, that's the one we want, to be more present.
Yeah. More pulling the levers, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so we go from judgment-free awareness to tenacious self-love.
Ooh, tenacious self-love.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That hit me. That was like, whew, hit me.
Yeah.
I love that. Talk more about that.
So that's the next level of judgment-free awareness, right? Because we say we need that awareness to be able to observe what's going on. We need tenacious self-love to really grow. We need to be able to look at whatever it is that we are, wherever we're at, right? And you hear that a lot these days, meet people where they're at, well, meet yourself where you're at too. And that might be really grimy and ugly and painful. And, so you need tenacious self-love, which you get to through judgment-free awareness, to this state of like, whatever it is, I accept it. I love it. Right? Like I accept you, I accept me, I love me, no matter what. That really that cracks it wide open.
Yeah.
Cracks it wide open.
Yeah. And then it goes back to that, what you're speaking to earlier, which is not just the acceptance of what is, because there's action in there, right? Because it's not just it is the acceptance of who you are now, and that might be dirty and grimy, and it might be really hard to be like, dang, like I've been a super asshole, in this area or in this aspect of myself or my life, and that might be really, really tough to face. But it's that acceptance of like, okay, this is how I've been. This is exactly what has been happening, and I can still love me, and I can still grow from here. Like, who do I want to be about this? And also, like, not just who do I want to be, but the reparations that it takes. Like, for example, if you are looking at an area where you've broken trust with someone, right? And so there's the acceptance of, okay, I did that thing, and now I have broken the trust of this person. And it's not necessarily enough inside of restoring the relationship, that trust that you've broken, to be like, oh, well, I've decided that I'm going to be this better person. Well, now this other person is like, well, good for you.
Right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, jerk. Yeah. And now you're all,
good. I'm glad that you've ascended, but way to leave me in your wake.
Yeah, exactly. Your wake of destruction.
So, but there's also being responsible, like in that awareness, there's also, when I hear possibilities, I hear possibilities for the future, but I also hear possibilities for the now as well, like reparations that need to happen or actions that need to take. It's easy to aspire and dream to be something and to aspire to something bigger than yourself, but there's the dirty work of the now. And dirty work on purpose, because sometimes it's great and fun and beautiful, but sometimes the dirty work of the now is like, is setting your ego aside, is apologizing, is repairing something, is, like, I'm sure when you came to that realization in your marriage, that you didn't just go up to your wife and like, oh, hey, sorry for the way I've been treating you, but I'm decided to be this greater person. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I'm sure that there were other things that happened that had to be reconciled in order for you both to move powerfully forward.
Yeah, completely. And just a side note, your volume got kind of low there. I don't know if you have control over that, or you can edit that out or increase it.
Thank you. Thanks for telling me. I've actually noticed that on my recordings is that occasionally it'll kind of go, I don't know if it's because sometimes I move around a lot when I talk and I move my arms and things like that. So I think that has more to do with it. I do have a microphone. I guess I could plug this. Anyway, I'll do that.
I mean, you sound, yeah. you sound fine.
Yeah.
It really, it did take a lot, and it took getting really vulnerable and being okay with that, and so without even really having a term for it yet, that's what I was starting to do, right? I got very humble, very vulnerable, and, so I had to have a conversation, right? And it was at the point, the way my wife tells it is she's like, yeah, we came to Nick one day and said, we're moving back to New Hampshire. Are you coming with us? And I don't remember it exactly like that, but it may as well have been like that. Because once I had that realization after that visit with my friend, I had to face the music, and I had to, come to my wife very vulnerably and say, like, I don't have it all under control, and like, I'm sorry for all of this, and, all of these sunk costs of, I felt like everything I had done was like a waste at that point, and it wasn't, but at the time, I just felt like a failure. And so having that conversation with her took a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability. And I love Brene Brown. But it was hard. It was really, really hard. However, as soon as I got to that point, which I felt like, oh, this is going to be so tough.
Yeah.
She was like, hell yeah, let's go. Like totally on board.
Yeah.
And
like,
and it
I've
was
been waiting for you to show up.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. That's so perfect. So yeah. And then it was like, okay, cool. Now we're together. Like, we're here. I'm here. Let's do this. And then it was, vulnerable, uncomfortable conversation one after another with my new boss. Like, hey, I'm not going to be here in a few months. I don't know when I'm leaving, but I'm not going to be here. And he was like, what? But, I will say everything became, it just started to happen, and this is what I want to share with as many people as I can for the rest of my life, is like, once you do that, once you let go, there's so much beauty and like abundance and everything on the other side. Like everything I did was like started falling into place. The themes of my life became synchronicity, serendipity, abundance. Like, my boss was cool with it. He was like, I get it. That's a really powerful decision. Good for you, and supported me throughout the whole transition. And then I had like multiple job offers back in New Hampshire, just like all, once I started to allow for this, it started to happen. And then I got this job, and then, a bunch of stuff happened, and it ended up I wasn't going to have that job forever. And then I was like, okay, well, I really need to figure out what I want to do. And the life coach thing, like, was like, like, this is what you're supposed to do, dummy, where have you been? And then, one thing after another. And here I am, like, a couple of years later, living my adventure, living my dream.
Wow.
And it all can be traced back to that moment where I let go.
Wow, that's really beautiful. That's really powerful. I can definitely see why you would want to shout that from the rooftops and tell that to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Because it really is that it's scary. It's scary to let go. Well, like I said at the very beginning of this conversation, it's scary to let go. But once you do, it's like freedom. It's alignment. It's serendipity. You use the word abundance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And actually, I was on a coaching call with someone at the beginning of the week. I'm like, it's Tuesday. Like, what day?
I have no idea what day it is.
couple days ago.
Right. Fair enough.
And so I do parkour. And,
oh, cool.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
I know, it's super fun. I'm still like super new at it, so I'm not like jumping off of buildings or anything like that.
Not yet.
Not yet. Progress.
Right.
But yeah, this particular person I was talking to is very familiar with parkour as well, and that was the analogy that I used for him. Is that when you like, one of the reasons why I love parkour is I love movement practices that directly apply to life. That's why I love yoga, right? Mm-hmm. And parkour is this constant testing and discovering of who you get to be. And it is an adventure. Parkour is an adventure. And it's scary and it's uncertain. And you're like, I'm going to try and jump over this, you start out with 2 feet and then you move to 3 feet and 5 feet and 6 feet and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And, but it gets to a certain point where you're like, oh my God, like I can't, like you're Brit, like that the mind part, right? All the thoughts are like, you can't do this. It's the self-preservation. It's the, holy crap, like, please don't murder us. Like, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But then when you let go of that and you completely trust yourself, you're like, no, I know that I can do this. I've been training for this. I like that heart part of you. That's like, I fully trust myself. And then in parkour, they call it breaking the jump.
Yeah.
And it's that moment when you make that jump that was seemingly impossible. And what it feels like is flying. It feels like you're flying.
So beautiful.
And it's the exact same in life.
Yes.
It's like, it's scary and you resist it and you're like, this isn't possible and I'll probably die and everything ruined and it's like resist. And then when you just like completely let go, it's like you fly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful, beautiful analogy. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I love that. So much gold in that analogy. It is, the feeling of flying.
Mm-hmm.
And who doesn't want to have that sensation, right? That's like 101, like lucid dreaming 101, right? Is like, oh, I want to fly. Like,
Yeah, totally.
What superpower do you want? Oh, I want to be able to fly. Like, it's an awesome sensation.
It's that complete freedom. It's like, we let ourselves, and I say that intentionally, we let ourselves get weighed down, by the weight of the world. And, especially, I want to say this carefully because I think especially with the time and the circumstances of the world right now, there are absolutely things that are heavy, that are pressing, that need our attention, that need a change, need a shift, need a complete redo, right? But I think that where we're at is, as a society, we're at this precipice of, I don't want to, we can't, resist, like we'll probably die, everything will be ruined, But on the other side of that is like total freedom.
It's it's so perfect. It's it's a really, really great point. There's a lot of really heavy, serious things happening right now. And a lot of truths coming to the surface, right? There's a lot of like pulling back the veil, pulling back, these covers that have allowed us to kind of coast through. And that's really what drives me, and what's so like why I feel like this is so important, and why I'm so passionate about what I do, is that when we do something, right, this is like getting into quantum physics and the divine matrix and stuff, right? When you do something to someone else, you're doing it to yourself, right? We're all connected. We're all part of the same human family. When you do something to someone else, you do it to yourself. And you can flip that around, right? So the way you treat yourself is felt by humanity. Mm-hmm. So there's this like link that goes both ways. So the more you can love yourself, the more you can tap into what brings you joy, makes you feel alive, makes you feel like you're flying every day.
Yeah.
And that's related to passion and purpose and, meaningful occupation and whatever. The more you can do that, the more that energy gets infused into the world.
Yeah.
And that's what we need right now. We need healing. We need transformation on a global scale.
Yeah.
On a universal scale. And the simplest way is to start within, right? To start with yourself, with self-love. Just be aware of what is and love it. Mm-hmm. And then take the steps to grow, to create, the world that you want and become who you want to become in that world. Mm-hmm. We're the creators of this reality. Yeah. We're the creators and the subjects of this reality. And there's a lot of grimy, hard things that we need to look at as a species, as a culture, as a society. But I would offer that starts within.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I just had like 3 different thoughts at the exact same time. Okay. No, but I do. I absolutely agree with you. And one of this was really poignant for me, especially for someone who has been working in like personal and professional development inside of being a yoga instructor, inside of coaching, life coaching, love coaching. My coaching is centered around love and also love, sex, and relationships, right? Yeah. And it does start within. Absolutely. It does start with who you are for yourself and being able to be that third party observer of yourself and being able to have that detachment, but also care, setting the ego aside, doing the inner work. And I also want to urge people, I think it was Rachel Elizabeth Cargill, who is a leader inside of the Black Lives Matter movement. Mm-hmm. And she said it really well, where it's great, but it's not enough. Mm-hmm. Like it's and so I think that we have to be multifaceted in our approach to making ourselves, making our lives, making the people's lives around us, making our society, our world a better place. It definitely does start with ourselves. Yeah. And it's also not enough. You have to take that multifaceted approach of, okay, yes, I am doing this inner work. I'm doing the healing. I'm learning how to love myself. But now what are the actions I'm taking with my spouse, my kids, family, coworkers, colleagues, employees? How am I taking this self-love that I'm learning for myself? And how am I applying that? How am I spreading that?
Yes. It's a really, really good point. It's a really good point. I mean, it takes action. Yeah. And so we don't want to stop there with the self-introspection and growth and self-love. Yeah, it's how are you going to apply it? What actions are you going to take to really not only experience your own growth, but to serve others, right? To share that wisdom and that practice and that with others. Yeah. And all the things that we've been talking about, imagination and judgment-free awareness and letting go, it's also applied to others, externally. It has to be.
Yeah.
So it's letting go of, expectations of how others are going to be. It's applying judgment-free awareness to others, actions and how they show up. It's
Yeah.
applying, that love towards them, even if they're, completely opposed to you, right? That's what's required.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, allow, horrible behavior to occur, but, apply those same concepts to them, because otherwise you're going to get into this shouting match and just, get further and further away and shouting louder and louder.
Right.
Brene Brown says, I've just started listening to her book, Braving the Wilderness, and she said, it's really hard to hate up close.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, whoa, yeah. Like, get in there, get into conversation, get into an embrace, get close, understand each other.
Yeah, we're all humans. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful and powerful. We are all humans. Do you know the free hugs guy?
The free hugs guy?
Free hugs guy.
I don't know of a guy, no.
Okay, so there's this guy, and I don't know if he's not like, he has a name.
Yeah.
I don't know his name.
Free hugs guy is a great name.
He's a free hugs guy.
Yeah.
If you Google free hugs guy, I'll put him in the show notes. So for other people, I will research. I will find his name. I will I'll put him in the show notes. Yeah. But he has it's like that's how he spreads. That's his action.
Yeah.
Right? That's his action is free hugs, and he goes to protests. He goes to and also in this example, it's poignant that he's a Black guy.
I may have seen this. Yeah.
Yeah, and
okay.
So a lot of his videos are like he goes to like people who are running marathons. Like I think he went to the New York City Marathon or something like that, and he stood on the side, and like people who were running the marathon could like hug him as they like ran by him. It's an adorable video.
That's beautiful.
It's awesome. But again, like in current events, he went to, oh my gosh, I don't remember what city it was. I want to say that he was in Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay. I know he was on the East Coast, and I know that it was a southern state on the East Coast. So I could be wrong. It could have been Atlanta. But there's video of him, and he's going around, and he was giving cops hugs. And then he got confronted by some people, and mainly Black people who were protesting and a part of the Black Lives movement, like were super upset that he was giving cops hugs. But then they got into this, I mean, at first it was like a shouting argument. At first it was like, you're betraying us, you're terrible, you're hurting the cause, you're part of the problem, da 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 da. And I honestly, I get that. Like, I get, like, not from, obviously I'm not Black, but like, I understand the hurt and the anger of like, oh my gosh, here's this, like, we're trying to fight for our lives here, and here's this Black person like hugging cops. Like, I get the upset. And then he started to, like, it devolved into an actual conversation, which was amazing. And what he said was, we're all humans. He's like, we're all, at the end of the day, he's like, what I'm about and what I'm here for is that we are all humans. You are all humans, but also these cops, they're all humans. Like, they have families to go home to as well. They have people that are worried about them. And he wasn't, denying systemic racism. He wasn't denying that there was a problem. He's not denying that things need to change. But his main message was, we are all humans, and we have to see that we're all humans, or we're just going to create the same problems over and over and over again, just in different, systems and ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, that's powerful. That's really awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, and I really appreciate you coming on this podcast and talking about this, because that's also my message too, you know, and I hear it in what you're saying, where it's just like, we're all humans, and we
Yeah.
have to treat each other as such. And we have to, in seeing each other as humans, we have to see our grievances, and
Yeah.
we have to see, as much as we see our greatness, you know, we have to see and acknowledge our grievances as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
We have to see both.
Yeah, we have failings, we have shortcomings, you know, but
Yeah.
But again, applying our old friend judgment-free awareness, right? We can look at it and say, oh yeah, we're fucked up. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, this is bad, you know?
Yeah.
Although that's kind of judgy language, but we could say, like, you know, right? Like, this is not what we want moving forward, but this is what is and what was. How do we move forward? How do we want it to be? You know, focus on abundance, not to ignore the problem by any means, right? But you're right. When you get stuck in that space of confrontation and disconnection, you're just going to keep creating the same loop, the same pattern, over and over again. So, you know, was it Einstein that said, you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created the problem?
Right.
You have to expand your awareness. You have to expand your thought process, do it differently. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the exciting thing is we're at that point right now, globally, collectively. You know, we have an opportunity to grow, to do things differently. And so it's cool. As painful as it is, you know, my sincerest hope is that we emerge from this much different, much more loving, much more connected, you know, but it's going to take some disruption.
Yeah, it has to, right?
Yeah.
If you can't solve the problem using the same system that you use to create the problem, then there has to be a disruption.
That's right.
What was it? Oh, there was a piece of coaching that I got. This was, what is it? It was like a welcome interruption. Like, think of yourself as was that what it was? Was it welcome or necessary? Oh, I forgot. But it's like think of yourself as a, I think it was welcome interruption.
Okay.
Now,
how is it applied? Is it in like you interrupting, or?
Yeah, it's like when you're interrupting something that you see, that you can make a difference in, or that you see you can change, or that like needs to be talked about, that might be difficult, like something that needs to be talked about that might cause resistance or difficulty, that you can, like, it's a place to stand for yourself, where it's like, yes, you are an interruption.
Yes,
like, you are.
I like that.
Yeah.
I've heard the term artful interruption.
Ooh, I like artful interruption. Yeah. I don't think welcome. And I don't think that's what it was, but I like artful interruption.
I think it's the same idea, you know, like, you're not being rude, right? There's a way to do it that would be, you know, more, you know, rough and rude. But if you can do it artfully, the worst thing you can do is not interrupt when you have that inkling, right? Or that, like, oh, I could help here, you know, or I see a different way, because words create our worlds.
Yeah.
So just by interrupting and saying, well, yeah, but what if, like, that can change entire worlds.
Yeah.
You know? And so, please artfully interrupt, right?
Artfully interrupt.
Interrupt however you need to, honestly, at this point. If you see a better way, or just have an idea, you know.
Yeah, and be willing to have a conversation too, right?
Yeah. And which comes, you know, it's all coming together here with, you know, it's a pattern interrupt. When you decide, no, enough is enough, you know, I'm going to choose adventure. I'm going to choose love. Like, I'm going to choose a hug, you know, that's that pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
And that can change the entire course of history.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're all doing it as a collective. I love how it, this is what fascinates me about humans, is that you can do something as an individual that has an impact that ripples out to the world.
Oh yeah.
Because we are all connected, right?
Yeah.
And so when you do something as an individual, like, it does have that ripple effect out to the world. You know, you don't have to be Oprah to make a difference.
Right.
You know, you don't have to be, you know, you don't have to have 1 million followers on Instagram
right.
to make a difference. Like, it really does start with just knowing that who you're being, and you coming from a place of truth, honesty in yourself, and that freedom and aliveness, that it's just like that, it is going to make a difference, even if you totally completely fuck it up.
Right. Yeah. At least you tried. It's better than being silent, being a bystander, right?
Yeah, totally. And then be willing to play, be willing to dance with it, right? Like, oh man, I completely fucked it up. That was not my intention. Okay, course correct. All right, judgment-free awareness.
Yes.
Go back, judgment-free awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, accept that what I did not have the outcome that I wanted.
Yeah, like, whoa, what was going on there? I was freaking out. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's beautiful that this is coming up, because the method that I was trained in, that I've kind of adapted my own, or built my own system around, was called Play Life. And the concept there was that life is performance art, you know, or you could think of it as a game or a quest, right? Which is kind of where I'm leaning more towards. But, you know, in all those scenarios, in very practical situations like that, first of all, everybody has a coach, right? If you want to be a good performance artist, you want to be a good player in a game, or, you know, you have a coach. Right. And you practice, and you play, and you make mistakes, you know, at the big rehearsal, like you play the wrong notes, or at the show, right? Like, how many shows did I play completely off key the whole time? And nobody noticed except me, or maybe especially me. But, you know, the point is, like, get out there. Yeah, fall down, you know, make mistakes, and then come back and go, all right, play the tape. How could I have done that better? You know, the ball went left, I went right. Like, you know, the whole symphony went this way, and I went to this page. Like, whoops. But having that playful approach, right? Which is required in an adventure too. You know, like, shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And you got to roll with it. You know, and the last thing you want to do on an adventure or in a performance is just stop and freeze. You know, quit, give up, all that kind of stuff. Just keep going. Yeah. You know, keep exploring, keep playing.
I love it. It's all an adventure. It's all a practice. It's all an adventure. It's all a learning experience. Yeah. As my dear mother says, another fucking growth opportunity. Nice.
I like your mom.
Yeah, great.
Talks like a sailor. That's good. Yes. Great.
She's always like, oh, she's like, I talk like a sailor. I'm so sorry. I passed it on to you. And my brother and I are always like, no, you're not. You're not sorry.
You're not sorry. You're proud.
Like, what are you talking about?
That's great. Yeah, I'm getting to that point with my own kids too. It's like, you know, my wife and I are like, what, you know, what's a bad word? Like, you know, let's just we'll teach them the line between, like, you know, when do you need to kind of button it up a little bit, and when can you just let loose? But, you know, so the kid said, fuck, and he's 4 years old. Who cares? Like, really? Like, you know, like, it seems silly, and we're kind of being playful here, but at the same time, those are some of the limitations that we start to, like, infuse our kids with, and that we grew up with, right? Like, be polite, you know, don't say a bad word, you know, listen and do what you're told. Like, all of those kind of industrial age things are very insidious. Yeah. You know, and when you really think about it, what is wrong with that? and it trickles out, to behavior, right? Oh, don't say a bad word. Don't act up. Like I'm on a phone call, be quiet. Like they're kids. They're the best teachers of all in how to live vibrantly and with joy and with like full expression.
Yeah.
And yes, they need to learn to like, do certain things and not be completely feral, because that's the world that we live in.
Right.
But, let's stop diminishing and like building this cage around them, certainly with things that don't matter.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we could have another podcast episode about letting go around kids.
Yeah.
Like letting go of that control, letting go, like, really trusting kids, that they like, yes, they don't know some things because they haven't lived in this society, however many years. But kids know so much. And they are like heart-centered little humans.
Yes.
Because that's all they have, right? Yeah. All they have is like their intuition and their own observances, and like they really have that blank slate, right? Yeah. Like, and I think all of us can trace back, times in our lives where, we were introduced to different concepts that, would never have entered your mind had you not lived in the society that we do.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Like racism, like homophobia, like, like oppressing people for religion, things like that. Like I remember specific moments in like very specific, vivid moments in my life when I learned about those things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I just loved everyone, before that, and after that too. But it starts to create that lens, that cage, that that you think that you have to operate inside of, but you haven't yet realized that you don't have to operate inside of it yet.
Yeah. Well, it's all these beliefs, right, that are getting built for you, and around you, and it comes back to one of the strongest human imperatives is to belong.
Yeah.
Right. You're always constantly seeking belonging, adapting to your environment, and some of the other things that I coach around is like designing your own environment, because there is that human imperative, right, to belong. So you can design the environment for who you want to become, and you'll automatically become that because you need to belong to that environment.
Yeah.
When you're a child, it's kind of a crapshoot, because whatever family you're born into, whatever society you're born into, you're going to start getting those, and that environment, you're going to adapt because you need to belong.
Yeah.
And then at some point we have the choice, where do I want to belong? Who do I want to become? What do I want to believe?
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly when you're a child, that's all being kind of built for you.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's such an important responsibility as a parent to, get your own shit together. And again, and that's, just like we talked about how, doing your own work and becoming who you want to become and becoming alive and getting, and flying in your life, so important, because it ripples out in what you do to yourself, you do to the world. In a very direct sense, when you're a parent, that's happening in real time.
Yeah.
So, do the work,
whether you like it or not.
Yeah, well, exactly. Oh yeah. There's no stopping it. It's automatic.
Yeah.
Now that said, I'll just throw a little love and judgment-free awareness at myself as a parent and every other parent, in that we all as children experience traumas, experience, like those times that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know when I formed that belief, and that has made you who you are.
Yeah.
And so there is, in my mind, a little bit of this, like, everything is unfolding the way it's meant to unfold in the human experience, in our collective consciousness. And so certain experiences that are formative, are probably really important. And even if it's painful and leads to, the work that needs to be done around the healing and the growth, so anyways, my point is that that's part of how I apply judgment-free awareness to myself, and still do in certain moments when I'm like, whoa, I did not show up as the father that I want to. It helps for me at least to frame it and go, well, maybe they needed that. And it's a little bit, it's a little bit of a mind bender, because of course I want to continue to be the best father that I can be. And I don't want to induce trauma into my children's lives. But things do unfold the way that they're meant to unfold as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. And again, we could have like an entire podcast episode about actually, that'd be kind of fun to have a podcast episode about parenting inside of
I would love to. We have plenty of stories in that as well.
Yeah, sure. Definitely a consequence of sex is children. So
oftentimes, yes. Yeah. Scientists have found. Yeah, we can prove that one.
We can totally. I feel like there's some evidence-based information.
A lot of research has been done. A lot of anecdotal evidence.
One could say since the beginning.
That's right.
Oh man.
Oh, so good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Yeah. And I'm really glad that you can it just shows that judgment-free awareness and the imagination and the acceptance, like it applies to all areas of life. I think we've applied it to several things already so far in this in this one conversation. Just to draw it all together, this is about love, sex, and this podcast is about love, sex, and relationships, even though it can go really broad. But I think that's my point. That's my point, is that it is all connected, and that inside of love, sex, and relationships, you can use this judgment-free awareness, this acceptance, and the imagination, and all of it, right? It all ties together. It's all this, like, going back to that matrix idea, right? Where it's all connected. It all has a ripple effect, and and I think that you've really illustrated that really beautifully in this conversation. So.
Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like I was looking forward to this for so long, and it has not disappointed. I love your energy. I've listened to a few other podcasts of yours. I love your energy. I love your laugh. I love your mission. It's all just it so resonates. And I think you're right. Love, sex, and relationship. All of this applies. And all of that informs the rest. Like it's such an important topic. So I just love it. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to share this time with you and share, my message and my mission.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And I did, like, from that very first time that we met, we haven't even ever met, like, in person. It's like meeting you over Zoom. I was like, I gotta talk to this guy. This is a thing. This is a thing that needs to happen for sure. And so I truly appreciate your sense of adventure and having this conversation with me, and only meeting briefly over a Zoom call.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. No, I really appreciate it. And as soon as you made that comment, I was like, yep, that makes sense. We need to connect.
Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Well, I want you to go ahead and let people know how they can reach out to you and get a hold of you. So, and just share just a little bit, give yourself a little plug.
Sure.
And so that people can get a hold of you and know what they're getting hold of you for.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, I'm an open book. So my email is nickdevlincoach@gmail.com. Go ahead and fire an email my way. nickdevlincoaching.com is my website. It's not super fancy, but I have some stuff up there that's kind of cool to poke around in. And there's a contact me page. So if you want to be really formal, you can go through the contact me page on nickdevlincoaching.com. And the first point of contact with anyone is, I just want to hear about your adventure. I want to hear about, what is next, what is possible. And so generally that's like a 15-20 minute conversation, although I've had it go 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's truly like, I want to know, like, what is the adventure that your heart is calling you to? What is the dream, and what's next? And those conversations are always exciting. They're always fun. I just love to play in that space. And so whether we end up going further or not, I promise that'll be a really cool, really fun experience. One other thing I'll add is that I am looking for a few men. Now, I'm not exclusive to men in any way, but one of the things that I'm playing around with building next, I have the one-on-one coaching, but I want to build a program with a few men who are really ready to dive deep into becoming more heart-centered, into exploring their own beliefs, their own stories, and transforming into the men that they know they can be. So that's just putting that out into the universe, abracadabra, and
beautiful.
So yeah, those are some of the ways to get a hold of me.
I love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. And I really do think that is an important conversation to have with men, and to be more heart-centered and to have a space to talk about feelings. And I think in our society right now, just the idea of having men talk about their feelings is like hokey, or get poke fun at, and that just speaks to how we view men's feelings as a society, which trickles out to some of the problems that we see in men having to suppress those feelings, or what have you. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast episode by itself as well.
It is. Yeah.
There are literal libraries written about this subject. I've written papers in college about this subject.
There you go. Yeah. There's a lot there, but that is something I'm feeling really called to, is to help develop that softer side of masculinity, and not soft as in weak, right? But as in this like depth and this warmth and this strength that comes from really getting in touch with that part of masculinity. So.
Absolutely. And I want to put soft as safe as well. Like, not soft as weak, but soft as safe. I think that, just to add my own little tidbit on this, is the relationships that I have felt unsafe in often come from that idea that men can't be soft because it's weak. But then I, as their partner, have felt unsafe. In my partners trying to protect their masculinity or perceived masculinity at any cost. Right. And so I think that for the men out there who want to have really healthy and like those safe spaces with those safe, warm, loving spaces with their partners, that it's so important to find that softness and to embrace that softness and still see your masculinity inside of that. That's just beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Just more reasons why you're amazing. Just more.
Shucks.
So say thank you. That is very kind.
Thank you. That is very kind. Okay.
Yes.
See, I'm learning.
Yeah, always. All right, thank you so much. And for everybody who is listening, Nick gave his how to get a hold of him, and I just thank you all for listening so much, and I love you all. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of Love Dripping from the Walls. I so just appreciate and love every single one of you who support this podcast or this YouTube channel. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. If you loved this video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. If you want to reach out to me personally, please use the email address lovedrippingfromthewalls@gmail.com. You can also leave comments about what you loved about this podcast. You can leave comments disagreeing if you would like to. We all don't agree on everything. If there's anything that I know about relationships, is that you're never going to find anyone that you will 100% agree with all the time. It's just never going to happen. But we can all come from love and compassion. So I love honest feedback as well. So definitely don't be afraid to give honest, heartfelt feedback. If there are any topics that you would like to be covered inside of love, sex, and relationships, absolutely feel free to reach out to me about that as well. All right. I love you all. Thank you so much. Keep listening and keep loving.